barrier. And one of the first things we asked her was, oh my God, can you please like do practices with us, tantric practices? And she didn't know, or at least she told us she didn't know, and that she hadn't gotten those particular teachings. And whether she was saying that just to Roger and me, or whether it's actually true, I have no idea. But she told us that it was in the too hard basket. So I was telling Erica Prema that I've made it my mission. I've made it my mission to search out where these Hindu Tantra teachings are being transmitted, and specifically the practices of Panchamakara, the practices of sacred sexual union, and the practices of tsogs and sechus, which is essentially the practice of using what you could call illicit substances, illicit practices, edgy things, in order to have an express path. And so that's what my mission has been. And that's really largely what I did all through COVID. I was really on a hunt, and it was an interesting time because everybody put their teachings online that normally you probably would never find anything like that online, never, had it not been for the precious virus. So the precious virus gave us a lot in terms of spreading different kinds of teachings. Clearly, that was the way it was meant to go. But anyway, as a result of that, I was able to, hi, everybody. I was able to be, to be introduced to the main people in the world who received these teachings through the lineage of Swami Shivananda. Swami Shivananda was a tantric guru, by the way. He had multi-consorts, but you don't hear about that. Why? Because it's secret, right? But anyway, through his lineage, which is the lineage of Swami Satyananda and Swami Mukti, it's the same lineage. They, of course, had people within those lineages who were carrying this tantric lineage, which is called the highest tantra. And they call it the highest tantra not because it's better or worse than any other tantra, but because it's the fastest and the most I guess inaccessible, in that mostly we have too many karmas that don't allow us to take that particular road, as you can see, like my tantra class kept dwindling, and so is this one. And that's good, it's exactly the way it's meant to be, because it's kind of an expensive karma, I guess you could say. And it's an expensive karma. It's a really big overhead, there's a big overhead karmically. The overhead is really enormous because the stakes are higher, right? And in the course that I just finished, it was a course on tantric sexuality and tantric relating. And tantric sexuality and tantric relating, really the bottom line of those 2 weekends of intense studies was that even to think that you can put tantric sexuality or tantric relating into a course, automatically you're kind of hooped because you can't really put a lid on them because there isn't a container that could fit it, because it's such a wide field, because the field is infinite, whether you want to talk about sexuality, or whether you want to talk about relating, or whether you want to talk about daksha nyamje, or whether you want to talk about, where is my boundary, it's, if you're talking about tantra, you can't really talk about it because it's infinite, because there isn't such a thing. You can't say, well, this is tantric relating, Tantric relating is any form of relating you can ever possibly imagine, and millions that you've never even thought of. Tantric sexuality is a path of every kind of sexuality that you ever thought was possible, and millions that you thought are impossible, and ones you've never even thought of. Dakshin Yamje, the practice of putting yourself into the mind and the body of another, the practice of thinking about our own, what does Geshe Michael call it again? That thing that we've been talking about all along in Delam. The thing that, sorry, just a sec, let me just get my, the biases, he taught for many, many Delam classes about how Ken Rinpoche, his guru, didn't have any biases about anything or anyone. So, you want to talk about biases, I had a bias, for example, I had a strong bias towards attractiveness, youthfulness and attractiveness, right? And I've talked about it so much, and like I have such a thing I have a thing, right? And so it should be no surprise that I'm also like, it binds me in suffering, it binds me in suffering because I have such a bias towards others. And then when others might express such a bias towards me, I'm like super offended, then I'm like, you guys are all fucked up, you don't know what's important in a woman. The nerve of it is almost like delicious, but so as I discover these beautiful tantric lineages which are out there, and they're really giving these teachings in completely boundless ways. And, I took for example, my bias with attractiveness. Somehow I felt like I had to go and do that Tantra massage course. And in my mind, I thought, I'm going to do this in hospice because that was how I could get myself to do it. You know what I mean? Like I thought, okay, and I am going to do that. But if I'm going to do it in that setting, then I can do it, I can do it. I can learn this art, this high art. And it's the most extraordinary kind of healing that you can imagine. It really is. And, tantric sexuality and tantric relating and tantric massage and any of the tantras that have to do with that 5 to 10% of the huge scope of tantric teachings, right? They all, not just those 5 to 10%, which might form the tantras on sexual practices, but all of the tantras is defined by the fact that it uses energy. So the energy of sex or anything related to it is the most powerful of energies in the human being. And when we harness that energy and use it for something different other than the conventional uses of it, the healing is so extraordinary that it's off the charts. And that birthed a whole new branch of Tantra, which is called Black Magic, Black Magic was birthed on that basis because it actually works, you see. So then, of course, right, then people started using it for gaining a kingdom or, or annihilating their enemies, right? Like Milarepa, for example. You all know, right? Milarepa. But as I have been on this mission to search out these schools, which are still giving these teachings in a very, very, in a very authentic, grounded way, with the most incredible integrity and insistence. Like, I don't know if I told you this, but when we all showed up at the massage course, what it was the first thing they did was they took the phones and the Macs and the lap and the iPads and everything, and then they shut down coffee, tea, cigarettes, liquor, and sex for those 2 weeks. not at all. Like if you were caught with coffee breath or whatever, and everyone could tell, right? Because this is a pretty intimate situation. They didn't suffer anything like that. They just did not put up with it. Like it was like Lama Christie almost. If you're not gonna, if you're not gonna do your meditation and keep your meditation journal, please don't come back to my class. Like, it's a waste of time, don't even disrespect the teachings like that. If you think that you can come here and you can learn Tantra massage, the highest form of healing that exists on the planet, the most powerful and highest form of healing that exists on the planet. And if you think that you can come with a polluted, toxic body, and even just, even though you think you're really pure, for these 2 weeks, you're not going to do this. And if you think you can, it's like such a slap in the face of the highest form of healing that exists on the planet that you shouldn't be here. I don't know if I told you this, but 2 people got kicked out of the course and they actually had to go back to the United States. Mm-hmm. So it's really serious, like Tantra is really not a joke. It's not a joke, and it's not sex and good times. It's this it's like almost like a terrifying kind of a responsibility. And I know that, like, for example, Lada, I know you know that, which is the reason that it's been 6 years since that you showed up, and now you're back in Dalam again, like, right? I know that Lada has a very real sense of what a responsibility it is. And if you ever feel any nervousness or fear or anxiety, there's a very good reason for it. It's because it is a really, 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 I mean, how do you hold the key to liberation and not experience it as so hot that you just want to open your hand and drop it, it's, and so when you're using energy, there's no bounds to energy. There are no bounds. There are no boundaries to energy. If you think about what energy is, and energy is the raw material of Tantra, whether you're talking about the energy of anger or the energy, blah, 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 all the different flavors of prana, all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. And most especially and most crucially, the energy of sexual, orgasmic sexual experience is so hot and so powerful and such a, it's such a rocket, it's such a rocket that in the wrong hands, it's really, really, really dangerous for sure. And even in the right hands, you sense its danger, all the time. And so along with that use of energy, which has no bounds, how do you define sexual methods of Tantra? You can't. Anything, everything. How do you define a tantric relationship? You can't. It's anything. You know what I mean? Like, give me some rules already, right? Mm-hmm. Give me something. Okay, said the tantrikas. We'll give you something. Here's what we'll give you. Consecrate. Dedication. 7 preliminaries. Check and see when you make your offering. Is whoever you're offering to, are they accepting your offering? Do you feel it in your body? Do you feel that they're accepting your offering? Dear sweet holy Lama, now I'm going to have like a 3-day thing, tryst with this man, and we're going to do all kinds of like tantric practice. And I offer this because I want to heal. In my case, I have some serious healing I want to do in my own heart, because it's translating into my world in the form of people who are seriously suffering from the war in the Ukraine, but like really, really debilitating suffering that I'm seeing. So this is what I want to do. So Sweet Holy Lama, please could you accept my offering? And I wait. And if I don't get like a serious yes, you can't do it. It's not like a wishful thinking yes. It's just like get out of your own way and see if your offering is being accepted. And if you get a yes, that's part one, consecration. Part two, transfiguration. The first rule of Tantra, nothing is ordinary. Can I transfigure this proposed partner of mine into Shiva? Can I transfigure myself into Shakti? Because if I can't transfigure myself into Shakti and my partner into Shiva, we're not operating at a frequency, we're not operating at a resonance where we can really make as much of a difference and bring about as much healing as we could if we did really transfigure well. Hence, all of these bodhisattva vows and other vows and things that ask us to see the other as divine, you know. See, because it's not about the sex, it's about the divine union. It's about the use of the energy in a divine union situation. That's what it is. So consecrate, transfigure, and the third one is called sublimate, which just means that you manage the energies. Like you want to cultivate the highest amount of arousal, but you don't want to go to what they call the PNR, which is the point of no return. So, and that goes for us, you know, with certain kinds of orgasms. And this is like a long story, which you'll hear about it later. But for men, especially, it's very tricky, you know, to like the neural loop that says, I'm going to ejaculate. How powerful do you think that loop is, you know? That motor engram that says, okay, now I'm going to have sex and I'm going to ejaculate. And if you say to any man on the earth, no, actually, that's not what the practice is, then you might end up with very few lovers. Because it's a big, hard sell. It's a really hard sell to, it's like a 3 months, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, maybe some people shorter, but it's like a 3 to 6 month learning curve, I guess, where it's inconceivable that there could be anything better than the conventional orgasm experience, you know, and to try to talk yourself, you know, because you can't talk anyone else into this, I guarantee it, but to try to talk yourself into that there's something better than the conventional explosive orgasm, you know, is easier for women than for men, but still extremely difficult, you know. So that's called sublimation, to bring the energy somewhere else than where our neural loop determines that it will go. You know, it's almost like it's an exhibit A, right? It feels so fixed. There's only one way for an orgasm to go. That's what we think. So those three things, consecrate, transfigure, sublimate, are what guarantee that the use of the energies of Tantra will succeed in the goals of Tantra. And the Bodhisattva vows simply say, get on with it, hurry up, do what you need to do, get yourself cooked, and like start taking care of others, right? That's what the Bodhisattva vows say. So if that's true, then Geshe Michael says, then you need to look at your biases. You know, you need to look at what is it that's keeping you from everything, you know? What is it that's keeping you from practicing? What is it that's keeping you from being able to experience other people the way you might your own child or your partner or yourself, you know? So just going to go through those quickly because they're always so fascinating. So we talked about physical appearance. And what I was going to say is that once I started practicing Tantra massage, I really became clear that the offering of pleasure to another human being transcends their appearance very much, you know. It's just, it's like almost inconceivable, right? To say to somebody, I'm not gonna rub your back because you're fat and you kind of smell. Well, actually, I think I would have done that, you know, a while ago. I think I might have. But there's something about the true passing of the lineage of Tantra, if you're so fortunate as to run into it, which I feel I have, that they are transmitting they are transmitting to me what I needed to hear in order to overcome my bias towards certain kinds of physical appearance in favor of the higher sanctification and consecration and transfiguration, especially, right? Because you know what you're doing. For example, in Tantra massage, what you're doing is you are facilitating another human being to raise sexual energy, and then physically you're lifting it up, right? You're moving the energy up their body, energetically and physically. And as a skilled practitioner, you would never allow them to go over the edge and drop off the cliff. You know, that's the skill. There's no ejaculation, there's no orgasm like that. Absolutely not. So the skill of the practitioners is in being able to bring all of that energy up and to facilitate an experience of a true higher state of consciousness in that moment and in the ensuing days, actually, not just, you know, not just after the session, you know, not just after the healing. And if then, and this is also the purpose of Tantra massage healing, if the whole thing has started with a consecration, a transfiguration, and a sublimation of their energy, and if you have encouraged an intention from your person, the receiver of the massage, and you encourage the sankalpa, you know, you sort of massage the sankalpa too, you know. Oh, you know, I get chronic headaches. Okay, so, you know, okay, so we want to do some healing for your chronic headaches. Why don't we do some healing for, you know, the headaches of the peacekeepers as well while we're at it, you know? Or let's also bring in, you know what I mean? Like make the sankalpa a little bit more like, because why not, right? Because it's going to work, right? So, you know, that's also, I consider that also to be my responsibility. And if you're working like that and you're working with other human beings with their most powerful, volatile, dangerous energies in that kind of a way, and providing a healing for them as well as a greater good, I'm telling you, I feel like I've really come upon the key to the salvation of the world, you know. I really feel like I have. Yeah. So, so some other biases, I'm just going to quickly go through them. You know, biases of, Geshe Michael is talking about how Ken Rinpoche was not biased, right? That's his whole thing. He would go on and on and on and talk about how Ken Rinpoche didn't have this kind of a bias and he didn't have that kind of a bias. He didn't have a bias of affiliation, you know. But I'm going to tell you about the bias of affiliation that I do have and just give it to you in the negative, and you can understand it, because I don't, because I have biases, and I can't talk to you about how I don't have biases, but I can talk to you about how I do have biases. So that's what I'll do. So you know how much of a bias I have, like a Diamond Mountain bias, right? My teacher and my lineage, and like I'm seriously biased about that particular affiliation, even though I understand more and more that my lineage didn't really give the whole picture in, for example, tantric sexual practice. I mean, they did, in the sense that they just said, just understand karma and emptiness. And that's actually good enough, right? Like, to say just get it with karma and emptiness just means there's no, what do you want to what kind of definition are you looking for? It's all perfect if your karma allows it to all be perfect. And this practice is okay, but that sexual practice is deviant. And this one, that's going to be true for you if your karma determines that that's true for you. So actually, I did get the ultimate teaching for sure. But nevertheless, it's very useful to have 21 asanas like they teach you at the Salt Spring Center of Yoga, or it's very useful to have Tibetan Heart Yoga series 1 through 9 under your belt. It's very useful to have methods, in all the different kinds of yoga, including the sexual yogas. And we didn't so much get those methods. We did actually get a lot, now that I see what the Hindu tantras have taught. But it was presented in a very different way. It was presented in a Gelukpa way. Here's the list. You got to memorize the list. This is the list. And like, you read the list and you're like, okay, right? But when you get it a little bit more embodied, at least for me, right? Being such an earthly creature, being a Capricorn with 2 fire signs in rising and in moon, and having, Mars, the sign of sex, in Scorpio, like, what can I do? I have to feel it in my body, preferably with another human being in my body. Like, I really have to feel it like that. I can't just read the list about the method and think, okay, cool, like, that's a very airy Gemini approach. Maybe some of you who are air signs will completely resonate with that, and you'll feel the energetic effects of that kind of an explanation. So, we're all different. And by the way, this astrological approach is one of the tantras, right? It's one of the tantras. It's included in one of the tantras, particularly the elemental affiliation of the signs. So, for example, Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus, Earth, Gemini, Aquarius, Libra, air, you know what I mean? Like, the elemental classification of the signs is what's really crucial in tantric practice, because, for example, things like pairings of partners is also very important. And astrologically, you would pair with a partner based on body size and lingam and yoni size and appearance, and also elemental classification of your sign, for example. So it's a science, and it's an alchemical science, and it's a very precise alchemical science. And the affiliations that I hold, in these sciences and in these teachings, I am very, very biased, I tell you, towards my affiliations. I'm so biased. Like, I assisted at ISTA trainings and stuff like that, but I'm surprised I did, because like, it's a volunteer thing, right? But my motivation was not to volunteer for ISTA. My motivation was to catch the fallout. I'm just thinking, oh my God, these people are going to create an enormous amount of fallout, and I'm going to do emotional support and catch the fallout. I'm not too sure about that motivation. We'll see how it plays out. Okay, so the next one is sect bias. So, you know, affiliation bias, sect bias, and religious bias, I feel like those are very similar in my world anyway. The biases I hold like that are very similar, you know. And they prevent me from giving, you know, they prevent me from giving to people, places, and things outside of my bias, you know, outside of my preference, right? And then he has species bias. Species bias. You know, the famous story with species bias is the cockroach story. Do you all know the cockroach story from Ken Rinpoche? Yeah. Everybody? It's a pretty famous story. Yeah, anyway, so there were cockroaches in their house in New Jersey, and Ken Rinpoche said, okay, take the cockroaches out because you might step on them. And then Geshe Michael went to get a Kleenex or something and grabbed the cockroaches, and Ken Rinpoche freaked out and said, that's not how you're going to hurt them, you know, if you do it like that. You kill them, you squeeze them like that, and showed him how to do it with a glass jar and a very thin, as thin a piece of paper as possible so that you wouldn't harm their feet, you know. And then, so then Geshe Michael did that and took them out and came back in, and Ken Rinpoche said, where'd you put them? And Geshe Michael says, just like out there, you know, out there. Ken Rinpoche freaks out. It's New Jersey in the winter. He says, they're going to freeze to death. What are you thinking of, you know? Put them in the, I don't know, the manure pile or something, or the compost or something, somewhere warm where they have food and shelter and they'll be comfortable, you know. That's the species, lack of bias for species. And then he's got social level, you know, castes, you know, Tibet had lots of castes, just like India, and every place has those, right? And then that, and someone who isn't trained to your level, oh yeah, that's me. This is like my specialty. You know, I used to hate teaching public yoga classes because I couldn't teach. I didn't know what to teach because they weren't all like super highly trained like you guys, you know. They hadn't done like 6 years of chakra sadhana and kriyas and all this kind of stuff. And then I had the studio owners telling me I couldn't use the Sanskrit terms. And I'm like, what? You know, what am I supposed to do here? You know, of course, there's lots of things I could have done, but I wasn't interested. They didn't, you know, they weren't trained to the level that I was training people. You know, I was teaching certain kind of class. And if I couldn't teach that level of class, not interested. So that was really challenging for me when I lived in Vancouver for 2 years. And I actually was earning a living by teaching yoga. You know, it was very hard because that's what I had to do. Right, Lada? At Open Door Yoga. I had to do that, you know. And I have it even with yoga, not yoga, but like Tantra teachers, you know, like the trainings that I just did, they're so high integrity and they're so authentic and they're so like insistent on the proper way that it's supposed to be transmitted and taught, you know, like the no coffee and the no, you know, like they're really on it with the purification of the body and the mind when you're trying to learn Tantra. Avoiding EMRs and avoiding toxins and avoiding influences like that, you know, along with karma and emptiness, like major karma and emptiness studies, because, you know, it's non-dual Tantra. It's a bit different from what's called dualistic Hindu philosophy. Non-dual Tantra is like karma and emptiness Tantra, right? That's what it is. So power bias, you know, people who are powerful or have high family status or money, treating them some different way, right? Treating them in a different way from how you would treat anyone else. Yeah. Geshe Michael is amazing. amazing at that. He does this thing of kowtowing to the richest, and he also does this thing of refusing to kowtow to the richest, both at once, in the most skillful way I've ever seen. Really skillfully. He definitely does things, gives things to the highest bidder, you know, for sure. But he also takes stuff away from the highest bidder. I've seen him do that very, very often, you know, just like remove himself from the highest bidder just like that, boom, for some reason or other, because it was the best for them. All right. Well, so let me just stop there for a second, just for a moment, and see whether, do you have, I'd like to open it up to questions at this point. And you could ask me anything you might be curious about with regards to what I'm doing right now in terms of the teachings that I'm receiving, and also, you know, what you think is going on here in our Tantra class, you know, and where we're going from here. We're approaching the end of Delam, which means that we're coming to initiation, you know, and initiation is very serious. And when we take a tantric initiation, we're taking vows, we're making a commitment to a set of vows that we haven't heard yet, which is completely different from anything that you've experienced up to this point. You have always had the vows explained in excruciating detail before you were allowed to take the vows, which is the case with the freedom vows and the bodhisattva vows. You know, you can't take the bodhisattva vows if you don't understand them. And even if you do take them, you haven't really taken them if you haven't understood them. You know, you haven't had them explained very, very thoroughly and understood them. The Tantra vows are completely different. This is a whole new ball game, you know, and I hope that you're getting a flavor for it. You know, it's like, okay, but what are the vows? You can't really draw a line around, you know, it's all has that flavor of it's so boundless. It's so boundless, which makes it so spacious, which makes it so effective, right? Right? That's what makes it so effective, because it's so boundless. But it's not, and evidenced by the fact that you're then asked to swear to a bunch of vows that you haven't even heard yet, you know. So does anyone have any questions about that? Because you should. Yes, Deborah?
I've been going through everything that you've been sending out, like all your teachers in Costa Rica, and I'm going to look forward to getting to see Sophia, and I'm
really good for you.
And I'm very interested in the energy side of it, of course, because I'm an energy practitioner. That's what I do. So really interested in the energy courses and the massage courses in Costa Rica or wherever that you suggest is the best, since you're playing in that field. And it's an infinite field. So I get it. And I understand that it's boundless. That's
right.
And it is just the karma and emptiness, like the beginning and the end of the pen. Like there is no beginning and end. But I guess is Delam 3 the last Delam for Tantra? Oh wow! So it's not like ACI where there's
no, there's another 15 courses.
Okay. Okay.
These
I
are the
was-
first three, but these are so Tantra series course 1, 2, and 3 were a final review of ACI, let me say. Yeah. So Tantra, these are the Tantra series. We've just about to finish Tantra series courses 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
But in fact, they have been a review of ACI.
Right, because we went through the Bodhisattva vows in the first one.
We
and then
still are.
Second one, yeah, because we're on patience. Do not have.
Yeah.
So, and then there's 15 more, you said?
Courses.
15 more courses. Mhm. Well, see, I asked a question, so I'm getting some knowledge, which is
Thank
really
you for asking. Thank you for asking. Yeah. And those observations that you made were really good. And I'm really delighted to hear that you're checking out, what's going on, what I've
When I
been
checked
dipping
out
into.
Caroline Elliott too. She's a crackerjack. Hey, she's
She's
on
a
fire.
witch. She's an extraordinary good witch, such as the world needs so many more of. Oh,
I checked out Margot Ananda as well. Like I've been going through everybody's just to put it all in my soup. So it's really flavorful.
good.
Yeah.
I'm so
Thank you.
happy to hear that.
for teaching. Yeah. And hats off to Eva too, for her teaching. She's doing a fabulous job.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Lada. Thank
Some-
you, Carrie Ann.
Marianne, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone
May I
else?
ask question? Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I,
Lada.
Lana?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can make some order in the in a Tantra versus Sutra, we can attach that last week with the girls. But if we're talking about all the Tantra around, Hindu or Tibetan, all of them agree that this is a system that allows to practitioner to reach enlightenment in one lifetime. All of them agree, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So, and then when you said that the basically what you got at Diamond Mountain was rooted in karma and emptiness. So they all agree that we're using energy to raise energy. We're using prana and channels to in this system, right? So
Yeah. And just so we're clear, I'll just interrupt you for 1 second, because throughout the Diamond Mountain teachings, they use the terms winds.
As opposed to
Geshe Michael and
prana.
Lama Christie always say winds as opposed to prana or energies. We're
Interesting.
talking about the same thing. In Tibetan, the word for wind, lung, it's the same word, It's the same word. It's prana, but they always said winds. So, for example, in the Diamond Mountain Tantric teachings, they would say, it's not Tantra unless you're talking about winds in the central channel, for example. And so
but
what
it's
I'm
a
saying
code
is,
word for prana. So
it's prana.
It's
Yeah, it's
prana.
energy, I like to say energy because I don't know, because it is energy. And when you think of it relative to something like anger energy, jealousy energy, sexual energy, then you can really understand how all these things are energy. All those things, you can really think of them in terms of winds.
Okay. But when we talk about sexual energy, it's not necessarily different from, we say anger is the wind or prana moving in a side channel, but not sexual energy, not necessarily always go into central channel, correct?
Well, we're trying to get it all
We're
into the
trying,
central
yeah.
channel.
Okay. Okay, but my question was not about that. My question was about we kind of touched about we talked about this with the girl. So if sutra way will take eons and eons and eons and eons and eons upon eons of great karmas, like very patient, very generous, very all of that, also based in karma and emptiness. If I am open teaching practitioner, like I'm not initiated into Tantra, I still understand that in order for me to get, let's say, to nirvana or to get good rebirth, even depending on my level, I still need to collect good karma and, you know, plant the good seeds, right? That's because, and I'm using emptiness because I'm seeing the object and I understand it's coming from me. So I will be, let's say, patient towards him. So and I understand when you said consecration and transmuting my husband into
Transfiguring.
transfiguring my, let's say, my husband into Shiva. But that's the whole difference between what makes this enormous amount of good karmas to ripen in one lifetime, or a seed. Like, if to become a Buddha, there's no one becomes Buddha, it's my Buddhahood seed ripens, right? So in order for me to plant that seed or level of, you know, enormous energy of that seed to plant, I need something completely different from what I'm doing today. Of course, I understand that you will teach me, but what is that sacred ingredient that makes this eons upon eons upon eons seeds different from that seeds that will be in Tantra? What?
Come closer to the screen.
Closer. I will bring the
Look, if you take the most powerful energy of the human being, which is lying basically dormant at the base of the spine, called Kundalini Shakti, and you start stirring it up, then as you stir it up, it's recognizable to you as sexual energy. And initially it's very animalistic, you know, it's very raw and heavy, dense energy when the energy is around Muladhara chakra. So here's the difference between Sutra and Tantra. In Tantra, everything is explained by the virtue of the winds, the channels, and the drops. Everything. There's no more like analytical, cerebral, heady debating at all. So if you start stirring up that Kundalini Shakti at the base of the spine and you bring it up to Svadhisthana, it then feels extremely powerful, surging sexual energy. That's how you know it's at Svadhisthana, because you're like, whoa, you know, this is sexual energy, you know, whether you're male or female. This is sexual energy. If you are able to bring it up to Manipura, the fire of Manipura transmutes, alchemizes that Svadhisthana, predominant Svadhisthana energy. Most of the globe lives at Svadhisthana chakra, energy of Svadhisthana chakra. Not just from a sexual point of view. You know, all the food, all the way that the masculine is going, you know, like spending all day long flipping through Instagram or whatever, that's all yin, 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 yin. It's all Svadhisthana chakra energy. If you can bring that sexual energy consciously up in the central channel to Manipura, the fire of Manipura alchemizes it. Now the water is going to turn into what actually can penetrate the Anahata chakra, because that's air. If you can transmute that sexual energy through the fire of Manipura and bring it to Anahata, your experience will be so vast. Your experience of love will completely shift. Your energetic experience of compassion will completely have alchemized. And only like that, that's the most powerful way to transmute sexual energy into the energy of love. True love. Really the love, that real Dakshin Yamje love, like real Dakshin Yamje love that only can happen when the heart chakra can open. That's the fastest way to open the heart chakra, with that energy. So you can sit around and you can do Tonglen till you go blue in the face for eons. But if you can use the most powerful energy that is available to you and bring it up through your central channel in a very focused way, and actually consciously bring it into Manipura, transmute it, bring it to the heart, boom, then you can feel some real love. Then, because the heart chakra is air element, it can move into Vishuddha, which is space. It's just space, So for earth to make it up to Svadhisthana is pretty easy. Earth, water, muddy, it's kind of like, that's okay. But for water, right? Water has to go through the fire. Yes? You apply fire to water, it turns into steam, vapor, air, right? That's the alchemization that happens at the Manipura chakra. This is really critical, okay? So that sublimation process of bringing the energy up to Manipura and burning it at Manipura, transmuting it, purifying it, alchemizing it, whatever you want to call it, when you consciously bring that energy there, then you can the heart has a seriously impactful change. And then you can start moving into these higher realms of consciousness. Then there's no more elements, right? There's no more elements that you need to like dematerialize. You don't need to dematerialize any more elements then. So Vishuddha, so Vishuddha Ajna Sahasrara, once you can bust into the heart, right? That's why there's such a big distance between Anahata and Manipura. That's why we say triple knots at the heart, right? So that's the difference between the sutras and the tantras. It's a whole different method. Can't even put the two, you can't even really think about them the same way, because you're talking about energy, So to energetically draw this orgasmic energy up to the Manipura chakra and feel it as heat, and understand that you actually did get it to the Manipura chakra, that, and then if you could consciously experience it into the heart, such that you even have like sensations down the arms, perhaps, and in the shoulders, then you're doing transmutation, then you're doing alchemy, magic. Then you're doing magic. So that's the reason. So having those energies available to us, having the methods available to us, and the teachers I'm discovering now who have very graphic and specific teachings, which leave no doubt as to how to do it, then there remains nothing else to do but to do it. And then maybe people will understand what the hell you're doing if you say you and your husband are going to go on some kind of a tryst holiday, and you can't be reached, and you're not going to be on Wi-Fi, and you're going to go into the mountains somewhere, or you're going to take two lovers and go into the mountains somewhere, and maybe people won't think you're weird, you know, but probably they will. But the point is that we won't think you're weird.
That's really, but but then to clarify a little bit more, the practice that you explained, that's gradual. You know, this is not, that can be done by myself or by tantric practitioner without a partner.
It's
Okay,
possible.
it's possible.
Not as easy, you know. Look, here's the thing. Okay, so yeah, you can do it by yourself, of course you can, and you can do it quite effectively and successfully, because you really can control your own energy. You know, when you're with somebody else, it makes everything way more complicated, you know. Now, like, you know, they make one move and you could be like, oh my God, you know, oh no, or you make one, you know, then you're also responsible for your partner, right? In every way that you can. In every way that you can, you want to prolong the presence of these energies in the body of your partner. You know, you might not be able to say, look, you know, look, Max, you're not going to ejaculate anymore for 3 months. You know, you might not be able to do that or even want to, but it is on you to prolong the experience so that the energy is flowing through the body for as long as possible, because that's where the effects take place, you see? So yes, you can practice by yourself. Yes, you can practice with your partner. So from a tantric perspective, if you have the ability to transmute your own sexual energy, then you should practice with a partner. Why? Because the energy that you can cultivate is much more powerful, potentially, you know, if you're picking the right partner and all that, right? And there's very, very major polarization between you, then you will have a much more intense turn on experience from a properly polarized partner. And if you have a very intense sexual experience that you can work with one partner who brings you huge polarity, then what about 2? Or what about 3? Or what about 4? So now we're talking about what is the tog, you know, the did anybody see Eyes Wide Shut? Yeah. So that was like a, you know, like a silly depiction of a tantric practice, you know. It was just kind of Holly weird. But anyway, the point is that that's what I was saying earlier about how do you define tantric relationship and how do you define tantric practice? Well, the whole point is that you don't define it. There's no like, you know, this is what it is, you know. It could be anything. And in the case of tantric practice, which has to do with the sexual yogas, which let me just say again is 5 to 10%, okay? It's a real minority practice, right? So if you're talking about that, then there's no definition, there's no boundary, there's no definition, you know. In other words, as much, you know, somebody asked my mother once how much butter is in that cake, and she said, as much as it will take. It's like that. How much sexual energy do you want? As much as you can take. Did I leave any part of your question unanswered, Lada?
No, I think you took it to at least that's what I experienced, that you took it to a different you took it straight into this 5 to 10% too hard basket. I was asking in general about is the process of my relating to other people is going to be the same. In order for me to plant a seed that will ripen towards my enlightenment in this lifetime, then what makes those practitioners that are not practicing the 5 to 10% sexual yoga practices as a tantric practitioners, like am I ever planting a tantric seeds when I'm relating to other people and I don't see them? Like, what makes that that practice tantric that is not in the heart basket? You know, and
I understand. Yeah. So Tonglen, for example, all the practices of the heart chakra. So sexual tantra is a heart practice. It's an anahata practice. That's the practice. It's to bust open the heart chakra, which is the point of all spiritual practice, Catholic, Christian, all of them, right? So when you use prayer or devotion or kirtan or bhakti or, you know, Jesus or your husband or whatever you use to open your heart, right? This brings you closer to other beings and plants the seeds for you to experience yourself as divine and then them. It doesn't matter which you want to do first, right? Eventually you'll run into a major roadblock if you're trying to view other people as divine, if you really don't think you are, right? Yeah. So
That's the biggest one. Yeah.
but if you are
Yeah.
using sexual energy to bust open the heart chakra, then it's a prana flavor, which is always in you. You just want to, it's sexual though. It's very, you know, like my experience of it is that it's very sexual. Like I feel very sexual most of the time, you know, unless I'm throwing up or having diarrhea, mostly I'm feeling sexual. And that sexual experience is not in contradiction to relating to anyone. My mother, my son, my grandson, my students, you know, people in classes, other people's partners, doesn't matter. My sexual experience is an experience of my heart. It's so like blissful that I describe it as a sexual experience. Somebody else might describe it in another way. But for me, it feels, you know, frankly, I just feel like a walking orgasm, you know. Lot Eva. I mean, it's this bliss. And the thing is that it sustains, you know, it's not like plant medicine journey or something, you know, like it's a keeper. It's a keeper. And it's much faster. So, you know, you want to know, okay, like how long does this take? You know, like for women, it's probably, I want to say that you could, with 3 months of very dedicated, consecrate, transfigure, sublimate sexual energy, and then transmute it. 3 months of dedicated practice, you can feel some really, 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 really strong effect in your heart space. And that nobody needs to know what's going on. You just walk around your world and people are just like attracted to you like bees to honey, you know, and they just feel like, wow, you know, what is it with you? And then there's nothing to say, right? There's nothing to say. You just can be with anyone and they will love you and you'll love them.
No more questions.
That's just like, I'm out of here. You have no more questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Yeah.
What level do I need to be at in order to go to Costa Rica?
What do you mean? What
Like
level do
the-
you need to be at?
Well, I looked at the courses for the massage and for the energy practitioner that they have listed, and
Yeah, but some of
Um,
those are online courses.
yeah, there's one. Yeah, I've seen one that's in online. I think it's in September or something that I'm kind of in.
Right.
Yes. So, am I ready?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, anyone can take them. Anyone, especially any of you, I feel like this school, Somananda School, is really big on intent. They're really big on intent. So, but not as big as DM, not as big as Geshe Michael. You see? So, but you have that already. You have that solidity, you have that structural foundation. So I think the energy course would be a real natural one for you, Deborah, because you're already doing it. By the way, somebody from my tantric sexual methodology or whatever it was called course that I just did last weekend, he had taken that massage online astral massage or whatever. He had taken that course. And in between the 2 weekends, he gave me a virtual session, healing session, tantra massage therapy healing. He lives in Baltimore or somewhere. And it was pretty amazing. Really was. I'm also energetically extremely sensitive, and he is too. So that's helpful, right? And if you have two people who are very highly sensitive energetically, then it's like really power, you can really feel it powerfully, right? So I've experienced it as very powerful, like very, very, very powerful. In many ways, just as, or maybe even more powerful than an actual hands-on tantra massage therapy. And so when I say that, there's a bit of a variance between people who, like, bias aside, okay? Bias aside, like physical attractiveness bias aside, I am very attracted to people with whom I have this energetic polarity. Yeah. Like I feel it's like a magnet, it's plus and minus. If I'm really in my minus and some plus comes, I'm like, whoa, I gotta go there. I gotta go there. And I have that very, very powerfully. So that has now transcended appearance. Because that's always been the case for me. Someone can be like gorgeous, but if I don't have that plus minus, like we can be good friends and we can like, cuddle and stuff, but there's nothing going on that's going to function as a path for me, as a path. Okay. So this particular guy, and that could be, by the way, so anyway, so I had that experience with this guy remotely, so I think it's a really good choice for you, actually, if you want to know. Because, that school offers so many, 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 many courses, as you probably know, if you had a look, yoga level 1, tantric yoga level 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. All that, you've already done. You've already done it in sadhana class, It's all chakra sadhana, it's the kriyas, it's all the pranayamas, it's all the hatha practices. Exactly the same, really. Yeah, very small differences, but huh?
Well, they do have some prerequisites. So in some of the
I see.
places, so I can talk to you about that separately.
Yes, yes,
Where I
yes.
would fit in
Yeah.
between my own energy practices and
Yeah.
and what we've done together over the last.
Because I haven't done any of their foundational courses at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first course I ever did of theirs was the tantra massage therapy course. But they interview you before you can take a course with them.
Cool.
Like they do a Zoom interview.
Mhm.
and they really kind of scope you out. And
I
Yeah.
can fly now, so I want to be there in person.
yeah, so there's one in Estonia in the summer.
Oh, I don't want to go to no, I want to go to Costa Rica because that's where I potentially want to live. So that I want to check that out first.
No, they
I don't want
teach
to go to
the
Italy because then I potentially want to live there too.
massage course in Nicaragua.
Oh, Nicaragua. Okay,
Nicaragua. That's where I took it.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Carrie Ann, what are you smiling about? Is it cold?
I'm just cold. I was, long story, I was out power washing and then had a shower outside, which is hot here today, but now I'm cold because I was in a freezing cold outside shower.
Right. That's nice. Feels good on a hot day, right? How are you? How's your leg?
Good, pretty much healed.
Wow.
Little stiff, but it's like lots of hiking and everything else, yoga.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yes. Any other observations, reflections, questions before I race through the homework? Yes, honey baby.
So it feels like, you know, in sutra it's kind of contrived. You're trying to really love other people and you're trying to stop cherishing yourself and you're just trying to cherish others, cherish others, cherish others. But when I think about it from an energetic step, like from the prana in the heart, like something happens where you just, like the love that and the cherishing that you have for someone else is unbearable. And it's like, yeah, and it feels so like that's all I want, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's what Carrie Ann is saying, cerebral. It's not cerebral. Like that's what you're saying. No lists, no cerebral. I mean, in that basket. Yeah.
That's
love
why
that.
it's the hard to a hard basket, because there are no lists, there's no there's nothing, you know. And
Mhm.
you know, you go to a course like I just did, and all it really tells you is there's no course. You can't contain it. It's the Shakti of the universe. It's the energy of the universe that we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, the energy of the universe. We're talking about harnessing the energy of the creation of the universe, you know. And I think that's why they have that thing with the Bodhisattva vows, where they give you a vow and then they give you the exception. I think that's why they do that. It's like this big setup, you know, for tantric practice, which is like, there's no rules, sorry. because the list is energy, you know. That's what we're using, you know. Okay, so shall we quickly do the homework then, and then you can carry on with your Sunday. Okay, so here's a good example. First Panchen Lama is talking about patience, yes, the perfection of patience. And he's suggesting what we should do, you know, if someone is angry with us, or I would even say if you're angry with yourself. So, and what he says is, even if every living being in your world were to suddenly rise up in anger and in rage at you, you should sit there like a bump on a log and refuse to feel even a single moment of anger. Instead, you should even help the person in some way. So here's what I want to know. from you. How has that worked out for you so far? I don't know. It doesn't work for me. I mean, it works, but it's fucking slow. It's infinitesimally tiny. One step forward, two steps back, two steps forward, one step back. You know what I mean? You work at it, and then you have this big explosion, you know, which like is said to annihilate all the good karma. And it's, oh my God, you know. Right? So now I'll have a commercial break for the tantric way. The tantric, so the tantric way would simply, if somebody were angry at you, the tantric view is first of all transfiguration, right? If this person were a Buddha, what would they be trying to teach me? That's the first tantric way. Is there is no, you know, weird, angry person. There are only divine beings in my world, you know. If they're angry at me, then wow, they're showing me this energy of anger. And in fact, they're rising the energy of anger in me. And if I then do a transmutation at the Manipura, which would be, because it's the Manipura ego that rises up back in anger, right? So person gets angry and yells at you, right? It's Manipura energy, isn't it? That's Manipura energy. So if you can right there catch the energy in your Manipura chakra, recognize that fire in your Manipura chakra and move it up into your heart by going into devotional energy of, wow, holy being, you know, who are you? And why have you come to show me this rage? That's a transmutation of anger energy from Manipura to Anahata. Very, very powerful. Especially if you think of it energetically like that. Okay. Supported by Manipura practice. And in the case of Tantra massage, for example, it's supported by very strong trigger point therapy into what's called the marma points, like from Ayurvedic massage. Very, very powerful. In Chinese medicine, they do it too, into the Khanda point, you know, like very deep, deep, deep massage into the marma points is really amazing for Manipura release. So you see what I'm talking about? It's a whole different, right? Okay, so that let's move on to the next homework, because I can easily get stuck in the trend. Yeah, you know where I can get stuck.
But you don't stop at the heart though, right? You take it right through up.
Well, you
and-
could, you know, it's good to focus on the heart for a while.
Okay.
It's good to focus on bringing energy to the heart, because if you do that successfully, the buoyancy, the spaciousness of the heart automatically rises. See, you know, if you can succeed in getting the fire of Manipura up, 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 it only can go up. It will only go up. Yeah. Okay. So then Holiness Panchen Lama wants to know what two trains of thought, if we suddenly find ourselves in some kind of like dire situation in our lives, you know, like we're really, really sick, you know, can't stop throwing up, or suddenly somebody stole all my money and I'm in the middle of Nicaragua, you know, something like that. He says, what he suggests that we do in such a situation is that we should recall, we should have recollection and awareness that we're experiencing the ripening of karmas from seeds that we've planted. And since having that realization actually ripens many, many, many bad karmas into a not so virulent, potent form, he says there's no great reason to not want these things to happen to us. So today in our class, we had a really interesting piece on tantric relating. And is it monogamy? Is it polyamory? You know, what does it look like? And well, it looks like anything, right? But like, let's say, for example, you would choose so first of all, there's the thing of being in relationship with somebody and experiencing the things that come up, like jealousy, like, you know, possessiveness, right? A monogamous situation I'm talking about here. So that's like level one, right? And you experience the jealousy as some kind of an energy of something, right? What is that energy? It's the energy of being dismissed, the energy of being passed over. It's the energy of being rejected, abandoned. It's the fear of losing love, whatever it is for us individuals, all different. So whatever it is, recalling, having a sense of what that is really super powerful. And that's like a sutra treatment. That's like a sutra treatment, right? So the tantra treatment would be to purposefully put yourself into a situation where this would come up, not only to rejoice that it did come up, but to purposefully begin to put yourself into situations where it does come up, like an open relationship with multi-partners. That's called putting yourself in the fire, you know. That's called, let me just take it to the Manipura chakra and work there, you know, with my ego. You know, that's like, now we're talking about 2 or 3% of the 5 to 10%, right? Right? And it's all about understanding the path that way. And it's all about understanding that, you know, if you haven't done the practice, then you can't do the practice, you know. If you haven't done the chakra sadhana, for example, you can't do the kriya practice. You have to do the chakra sadhana practice before you do the kriya practice. And before you do the chakra sadhana practice, you have to do the hatha practices. You got to do the 6 shatkarmas. You got to do the pranayamas. You got to do those 15, 16 asanas, you know. And all those practices that go with each of the chakras, you have to do them, right? For ideally every day for a month, kind of thing. And then when you do the kriya practice or the actual chakra sadhana, then no harm will come to you, you know. So then you are fit. That's the Tibetan word lerung. Lerung means to make yourself fit. That's also the term they use for the 5-week Vajrayogini retreats, right? So this is an example of the boundlessness of tantric practice, you know. You stay in a monogamous relationship, that's really difficult. You know, if you're doing tantric practice, what you need to move through your obstacles will come to you in a monogamous relationship. Don't worry. Jealousy will come if that's what you need to ripen, you know. You know what I mean? Like abandonment will come if that's what you need to ripen, you know. But like if you have an awareness of that and you're really actively, consciously working with those energies, then maybe there will come a day where you'll say, yeah, give me some more of this particular flavor of jealousy. The jealousy of this is my partner. This is my partner. Okay, but that's like saying, this is my sunset. Or this is my rose. And you are not allowed to enjoy my sunset or my rose because it's mine. But if that doesn't feel right in your body, then don't do it, you know. So it's not like tantric sexual practice means you have to practice with multi-partners. That's not at all the case. It doesn't mean that tantric sexual practice has to be done with one partner. That's also not at all the case. There isn't a definition, you know. Okay, number 3. Okay, so does this all mean then that we're just supposed to be patient with those who are angry? And we already talked about that, actually, you know. Does it mean that? Are we supposed to just like grin and bear it or something, you know? Sit on the log and just like, right? What kind of patience is it then really? What kind of patience is that we're talking about in the six perfections, where we are supposed to remain patient with those who are angry? It's like it's an ability to happily undergo whatever hardship is necessary in our pursuit of the ability to be of ultimate benefit to every living being. So if we are at a stage in our practice where we say, okay, I'm going to go into an open relating style now and lay myself vulnerable, bare, open, raw to like major jealousy and possessiveness and attachment issues, all of them, just like let them all come, right? And if I've done this consciously, I know I'm doing it, and I want to undergo this practice happily, because I know that if I undergo this practice happily, I will really kick my possessiveness, jealousy, attachment karmas in the butt. So I want to do it. I am done. I'm done with it. I'm going to do it now. I'm sick and tired of it, you know? Okay, so how does His Holiness now describe the perfection of effort? Like as in not giving up when things get hard. Not giving up when things get hard. Wow. He says that if you want to even achieve one of the signs and marks of a Buddha, or if you want to perfect any one of the deeds of a bodhisattva, then we should be willing to stay in the lowest of the hell realms. To me, that means things like experiencing just fiery jealousy and attachment and possessiveness, for example. To remain in that kind of a hell realm we should be willing to stay in that hell realm for billions of years joyfully, without any discouragement, if we could even achieve one of the marks of a Buddha. So, you know, so then, right, my answer to that is, okay, I'll do it, but I could only do it in conjunction with sexual tantric practice, because it's so fast. Because then I can move through the jealous and the attachments so much more quickly, you know. Like I wouldn't just, you know what I mean? I would have to do it in conjunction with that practice. Otherwise it would be unbearable, completely unbearable, you know. I wouldn't be able to do it. Okay, what are the two divisions of meditative concentration? What is the essence, actually? What is the essence of the two divisions of meditative concentration? So, you know, as with anything, right? We're working for worldly goals, like conventional worldly goals, and also goals that transcend this world, such as to turn ourselves into enlightened beings together with our partner, or whatever it is kind of practice you're doing. To turn ourselves into fully enlightened beings through our practice. That's ultimate goals. And goals of the world are goals like, let me move this anger and lingering anger in my heart and transmute it so that I don't need to see people, you know, practically committing suicide over the Ukraine war, you know, for example. Okay, so now we're going to talk about form, not essence. What are the three divisions of meditative concentration in terms of form? Well, we have shamatha and vipassana, right? Stillness practice. And then meditative concentration in the form of the highest vision of emptiness. And then we have meditative concentration in the form of those two combined, which is training your shamatha, your stillness capability, onto the vision, onto ultimate vision. And that tantric union practice is the ultimate, that's a crucible of the ultimate vision. So when two partners in tantric union are successful in doing a proper consecration, transfiguration, and sublimation practice, and successfully transmute sexual energy at Manipura, and successfully transmute the energy up into the heart and into the throat, and yes, into Ajna Chakra and Sahasrara, then there's full enlightenment. There's a direct perception of emptiness. Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, highest Samadhi. And then what in His Holiness's text are the three divisions of wisdom? So there's the wisdom which perceives ultimate reality, direct perception wisdom, which knows exactly how things really are. And there's the wisdom which perceives deceptive reality, which understands the 5 great divisions of knowledge, which we'll talk about in one sec. And then there's the wisdom which knows how to fulfill the needs of every living being. Let's talk about the 5 divisions for a second. So there's Sanskrit, the knowledge of Shabda, Sanskrit, the knowledge of logic, debate, which allows us to defeat those who have no faith, okay? The knowledge of the fine arts and medicine, which includes astrological knowledge, and the knowledge of Buddhist teachings, which allows us to turn ourselves into a being who knows all things. So do you remember the koshas? Annamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, anandamaya kosha, the 5 bodies, you know, the layers of the onion, right? So that's really, really big in sexual practice and tantric sexual practice, along with, of course, the chakras, of course, major. But the koshas are also really, really crucial, because the wisdom which perceives ultimate reality, the wisdom which sees ultimate emptiness directly, the wisdom which sees how things really are, is the wisdom of Anandamaya Kosha, which is karma, right? The direct perception of karma and emptiness, the direct perception of emptiness, wherein you see the cause of all things. Anandamaya Kosha, right? Yeah. Okay, so the 5 great divisions of knowledge, which is the wisdom which perceives deceptive reality and understands the 5 great divisions of knowledge. I said Sanskrit, logic, astrology, the fine arts, medicine. Oh yeah, we already did that. Okay, good. And then what are the 4 methods of gathering disciples? Did we talk about this sometime? I feel like we did, but I don't remember. So the 4 methods of gathering disciples is to provide for them what they need, you know. Hopefully you give them a space to practice, or at least a Zoom link, you know, something like that. And then you speak sweetly. You reason with them in order to bring them to be attracted to the teachings that you're giving, right? That's the whole thing, is that you got to get them to be attracted to the Dharma, because that's the only thing that's going to, number 3, get them to practice. And unless they practice, they can't experience the results. And if they don't experience the results, then they can't sustain an interest in the Dharma. There's no sustaining interest in the Dharma. And then the last one is to practice what we preach. So for better or for worse, you know, you're here with me because I only teach what I've practiced. And you clearly have some kind of an attraction to what I'm teaching you and how I'm teaching it. And I don't teach anything else because, well, maybe because I haven't experienced it or practiced it. So one thing is for sure, it doesn't matter what you teach. If you're not practicing it, teach something else. Okay? Teach something else. Teach something that you are practicing. Teach something that gives you some juice. Teach something that gives you some juice. So we had this cool practice that we did today. It was called Come to Me Shiva. So beautiful. So all the Shaktis had to wear red and all the Shivas had to wear white. And the practice of the Shiva is to sit absolutely still, right? And contain Shakti, contain the Shakti energy. And the Shakti is, the practice is called Come to Me Shiva, right? So it was so much fun. And so you pin your partner, you know, like we do, you just pin your partner and it's you and your partner. And, you know, you do whatever you want to do, right? To crack Shiva, you know, to either get Shiva to laugh or to, like, you know, do something, right? Do something, like you break their concentration, you break their Shiva. So they're supposed to sit very, very still and just watch you and enjoy, watch and enjoy, but no smiling, you know, no like distraction, you know, nothing is like taking them out of their Shiva, right? And it was so beautiful. Of course, I got paired with this 21-year-old German guy. So that was the first edge, you know. And like, can I really do what I, you know, if I really were going to do Come to Me Shiva, like, right? I'm thinking, oh God, this kid could be my grandson. What am I going to do? Maybe I shouldn't do my Come to Me Shiva practice, you know? And then I remembered Fred saying, you don't need to convince anyone of anything, just yourself. And I thought, okay, I'm going to just convince myself, Come to Me Shiva, you know. Here's this beautiful young man, 21 years old, has no experience with Tantra. Yeah, I'm going to drop in and I'm going to get him to come to me. I'm going to do it. It was really fun. You know, so you can do whatever you want. You know, you can dance, you can feed strawberries to yourself or suck on your toe or do whatever you want to do, right? But the point is to try to break them, to try to break their Shiva. So this young man, nothing, just perfect smile like a Buddha, just quietly sitting, looking directly at me and smiling. And it goes on for, it seems like a long time, you know. But anyway, later, all the other Shakti, not all, but many of the Shaktis shared that it was a really, really difficult practice for them. And I feel like it's because of this thing. It's because we feel like we need to talk somebody into something. No, 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 no. You only need to talk yourself into it. That's what practice what you preach means to me. You just need to talk yourself into it, you know. Okay. So one of the achievements of His Holiness First Panchen Lama that he considered, he himself thought was super significant, was he started this thing called the Annual Prayer Festival, which was like this major, like a festival, you know, it was like a Burning Man, right? Like a Tibetan Burning Man, where they had this enormous power of prayer and dedication, of rejoicing in one's own and others' good deeds, which is exactly what they do at Burning Man, right? Rejoicing in the good deeds of others, and people get to showcase all their talents or something, or I don't know, I've never been, but a very powerful way for thousands of people to collect a massive good karma simply by having a good time together. Sounds like Burning Man to me. Okay, let me ask you this one. You tell me. What is the essential theme? Somebody's unmuted. What is the essential theme of the Bodhisattva vow about not losing the 4 points of the practice of virtue? Anyone? Do you remember?
Is it giving?
No.
No.
No. The 4 points of the practice of virtue. Refusing to react to the negativity of another person with negativity of our own. That's the one where somebody yells at us, we don't yell back. Somebody this and that and the other thing to us, and we don't do it back. You know that one? There's 4 points. It's that one, okay? Because we understand that it perpetuates the cycle of pain, right? Okay, last one. I'm going to give you the answer. You tell me what's the question. Ready? Here's the answer. Fame, attention, and money. Fame, attention, and money. What is the question?
3 wrong reasons to attract disciples.
Very good, Eva.
I'm cheating, it's in front of me.
Okay, good. Perfect. Cheating is allowed. In Buddhism, cheating and plagiarism is allowed. Did you know? You're allowed to copy from your neighbor. Yeah. And you're allowed to plagiarize the Buddhist texts and scriptures as much as you want. And you're allowed to cheat on your homework. So there you are. Rejoice. Okay. Yeah.
Did you answer the 3 divisions of meditative concentration as far as its function? You covered essence and form, but I'm just wondering if you covered function or if I
Well,
missed.
well, you tell me, did I or didn't I? I already put that document away. Did I miss it?
I'm not sure. Yeah, well, I didn't write it down. I didn't answer that question. So I'm not sure if I missed it or not.
What's the question and what's the answer? Read it to us because I already put
Okay,
the
let me
document.
find. I'll just need a second to find the answer.
Okay.
Class 4. Okay, the 3 divisions of meditative concentration as far as its function. I didn't get the answer to that question. And it says here, meditative concentration, which leads to comfort in the body and mind. Meditative concentration, which provides the foundation for all high spiritual qualities. And meditative concentration, which is used to serve all living beings.
Thank you, Eva. I did totally miss that one. So does that sound familiar from consecration, transfiguration, and sublimation practice? From setting intention for any kind of practice, right? So this is really, really crucial in Tantra. This determines whether you succeed or fail in enlightenment in one lifetime, okay? And if you fail in that way, and you're doing practice for function number 1 or even function number 2, right? You'll be reborn as a tantrika, you know? If you start doing like black magic, then you won't be reborn as a tantrika, or you might be reborn as a black magician or something like that. But if you're doing red tantra, what's called red tantra or white tantra, what we practice is red and white tantra, then, and you have intention like that, and your function is 2, hopefully 3 of that list, then you will succeed in your tantric practice.
Eva, can you say the list again? I was just trying to get to a piece of paper.
So the 3 divisions of meditative concentration as far as its function. Number 1 is the meditative concentration, which leads to comfort in body and mind. Number 2, meditative concentration, which provides the foundation for all high spiritual qualities. Number 3, meditative concentration, which is used to serve all living beings.
Nice place to end.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on Sunday evening. So let's make a strong dedication that all of our practices will bear very, very, very juicy fruit for us and for the world and for our spiritual evolution. Most importantly, for our spiritual evolution, that it may be fast and kind of comfortable. Make it so. Okay, so I'm gonna see you next Saturday, yes? 6 a.m. next Saturday. Thank you.
And then July 9th is coming up when we're coming, all of you guys are coming to my house.
Wow, I forgot about that, but yeah, we are.
Okay,
I
good.
didn't forget, really.
We'll follow up. Yeah. Thank you,
Ne-
Holy Mama.
Thank you. So see you, yeah, so see you for the next, anyway, foreseeable future Saturdays.
Yay.
Thank
Thank you. Love
you.
you.
Love
Thank
you. Ciao.
Bye.